Good morning, sir. I am Christine Dimson, and now I'm going to tackle about the tectonic plates and the plate boundaries. So the Earth's outer shell, the lithosphere, consisting the crust and the upper mantle, is divided into a patchwork of large tectonic plates that move slowly relatively to each other. There are 7 or 8 major plates and many minor plates. Varying between 0 to 100 mm per year, the movement of a plate is driven by the convection in the underlying hot and viscous mantle. Earthquakes, volcanic activities, mountain building, and oceanic trench formation occurs along the plate boundaries in zone that may be anything from a few kilometers or a few hundred kilometers wide. So there are 3 main types of plate boundaries. First is the convergent boundaries, second is the divergent boundaries, and the third one is the transform boundaries. So first we're gonna tackle about the convergent boundaries. It is where I have 2 plates here. It is where the plate number 1 and the plate number 2 were colliding like this collide. So the subduction occurs when one or both of the tectonic plates are composed of oceanic crust. The denser plate is subducted. The denser plate, for example, the oceanic crust. This is the 2 oceanic crust. Then the denser plate is subducted underneath the less dense plate. The plate being forced under is eventually melted and destroyed. Whether for example, this is the denser plate, so it's gonna subduct like that. Then there are 3 events that in convergent boundary happening, where oceanic crust meets the oceanic crust. So the island arcs and oceanic trench occurs when both of the plates are made of oceanic crust. Zone of active seafloor spreading can also occur behind the island arc, known as the back arc basins. These are often associated with submarine volcanoes. So second is the oceanic crust meets the continental crust. For example, this is the oceanic crust and this is the continental crust. The denser oceanic plate is subducted, often forming a mountain range on the continent of this. And one of the example of this is the Andes, the example of this kind of collision. So next one is where the continental crust meet the continental crust. These 2 are the continental crust. Both continental crusts are too light to subduct. So, a continent-to-continent collision occurs, creating large mountain range. The most spectacular example of this is the Himalayas mountain. So next, we're gonna tackle about the divergent boundaries. Divergent boundaries are where 2 plates are moving apart like this, moving apart. Yes, the space created can also fill with new crustal material sourced from the molten magma that forms below. Divergent boundaries can form within continents but will eventually open up and become oceanic basins. So there are 2 examples of divergent boundaries. One of the examples happening. And on the land, divergent boundaries within continents initially produce reefs, which produce reef valleys. Second is under the sea. The most active divergent plate boundaries are between oceanic plates, are also called mid-ocean ranges. So on land, it produces reef valleys, and under the sea, it produces mid-ocean ranges. The last one, which is the transform boundaries, in which the 2 plates slide past each other like this, like that. Relatively, motion in the plates is horizontally They can occur underwater or on the land, and the crust is neither destroyed nor created. So because of the friction, the plates cannot simply grid past each other. Rather, stress builds up in both plates, and when it exceeds the threshold of the rock, the energy is released, causing earthquakes. And that's all. Thank you. Thank you, sir.